Ever wonder what actually happens in the Charleston housing market during Thanksgiving? I pulled 5 years of actual MLS data, including showings, contracts, winter closings, and interest rates, and the patterns might surprise you. If you're new to the channel and want to know all that there is to know about the Charleston Tri-County area, be sure to click the subscribe button and turn the notifications on, as we share a lot more than just your average what's the market like kind of update. My name is Brett Kelly, the team leader with the Tree team powered by SC Sold Real Estate. And every year, buyers and sellers want to know, does the market slow down at Thanksgiving or does it actually speed up? Whether they're asking because they're looking to move to the Charleston area or within the Charleston area. And it's a huge honor to have the opportunity to help so many of you and your families. So whether you're looking to make a move in 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, just call us, text us, or send us an email, and let's discuss how we can help you accomplish your goals. Now, because this question comes up so often, depending upon the time of year, whether it's around elections, Christmas, New Year's, hurricane season, summer solstice, or in this case, Thanksgiving, I pulled the real numbers for you guys to all get a better understanding and what you could expect. Now, I want to be totally upfront about what data I actually do have, because I'm not going to just sit here and make numbers up. It's not how we really help people. So I wanted to help others understand what we've experienced here in the Charleston area the week before Thanksgiving, the week of Thanksgiving, and of course that, turkey hangover week after Thanksgiving, and also dig into the trends a little bit deeper with one of the biggest driving factors of all, interest rates. So when I explain these patterns, I'm only using data that actually does exist without any filler in between any of it. So here's where we started. We went back to 2021. This is when everybody's kind of getting out of the funk of COVID and is out entering into the world again. What I was able to find were, starting off with the number of contracts that we saw in November. Number of pending contracts in November of 2021, there were 1,718 pending sales. Now, I also wanted to grab, for all of these years and year-over-year trends that we're looking at, wanted to grab the amount of closings total that we saw in the Charleston Tri-County area between December 1st of that given year and January 31st of that following year. The reason being, when we're talking about contract to close in that window of time, if we're looking at number of pending sales that took place in November of all of these years, again, starting back in 2021, what ends up happening is that we see on average a window of contract to close being between 30 and 60 days. Sometimes you'll have some outliers that go a little bit beyond that for extenuating circumstances. And sometimes if you've got a very, a strong sense of urgency within the closing taking place between the buyer and the seller and so on and so forth, then maybe we've got something in 21, 29 days. But nonetheless, just using simple averages here. So we're looking at number of pending sales for that month of November in each of these years, and then number of closings total between December 1st of that year and January 31st the following year. Back to November 2021, we had 1,718 pending sales. That led to us seeing between December and the end of January, which was January 2022, we saw 3,442 total closings. Now, this was when we saw interest rates at the high 2%. On average, around this window of time, we were hovering right in about 3.2%. So this was the peak cheap money season. Now, let's look at the fact of when we saw in 2021, interest rates around 3.2%, super low. I mean, historic lows. Then that takes us into what we experienced in 2022. The week of Thanksgiving in 2022, the total number of showings, it doesn't matter location, doesn't matter the price point. I'm not chunking any of that down, just the simple numbers on all of this. The week of Thanksgiving in 2022, there were 2,990 showings across the map. Now, the week after Thanksgiving 2022, there were 1,236 showings. So the number of contracts that were received, number of units that went under contract in the month of November in 2022, that was 980. Might seem a little bit low, but that being said, it did lead into us seeing total number of closings, again, between December and January. The total was 2,293. Brett, why is the number so off? This doesn't make any sense. Why were there so few showings that took place immediately after Thanksgiving? Well, here's the truth is when we had interest rates at threes and, high twos back in 2021, post-COVID, it was kind of a big shocker to everybody when all of a sudden there was this massive uptick in interest rates. And during that window of time in November of 2022, that's when we saw interest rates at 6.7%. This was when the affordability shock really started to hit. So everyone's seeing, the difference in their interest rate of, even 3% of an increase. Forget the fact that that's, going to, in some cases, it increased monthly mortgage payments by $2,000. Pretty significant. So if you're increasing your mortgage payment by $2,000, your affordability or your actual purchase power of what you can be looking at, that drops down. Most folks that are looking at $400,000 or $600,000, they got pushed out of that sector of the market altogether. This was the affordability shock year. Rates doubled, buyers froze up, and November pendings totally collapsed. Well, I shouldn't say totally because we still had 980. There was a huge mismatch in comparison to previous year. Nonetheless, the Thanksgiving week itself still had activity and led to December and January closings remaining very strong. 2023, this is when we have the full picture. So the week before Thanksgiving, we had a total number of showings of 2,920. The week of Thanksgiving, we had a total number of showings of 2,015. And the week after Thanksgiving, that was 3,075 total showings. In November of 2023, number of pending sales was at 1,030. Of course, the lead indicator being the number of showings that we had, which leads to the number of pending contracts and number of pending contracts, which then trickles into the next domino falling over, which is going to be the number of closings that take place. And again, remember, we're looking at a 30-60 day window of time from the point of time when somebody goes under contract until that property closes. When we're looking at totals for December and January together in 2023, we saw 2,236 closings. Now, this is when the year before we saw interest rates nearly double and get to 6.7%. And now the information for 2023, we saw interest rates hovering right between about 6.8% and 7%. So here's when buyers adapted. Rates were high, but activity jumped anyway. Didn't matter. So the Thanksgiving dip was normal, and the post-Thanksgiving surge, it was huge. So in 2024, everything started to become very predictable and very stable. So the week before Thanksgiving, again, we're looking at 2024, number of showings was 3,056. The week of Thanksgiving, total showings was 2,160. And then the week after Thanksgiving was at 2,804, which led into the total number of pending sales in November of 2024 to be 1,337. Again, looking at the 30 to 60 day window of time, that put the total number of closings between December and January at 2,459, when interest rates still were at about 6.9%. So buyers were fully acclimated to the 6 to 7% interest rates by this point. And you can see how predictable the pattern becomes. We were down during Thanksgiving and then right back up again. Now, here we are in 2025, this year. So we only have partial data. We don't know what's going to happen next week or even fully being able to see the data for this week. Pre-Thanksgiving, we're looking at last week, which was November 17th through November 23rd. Now we can look back. Last week, we had a total number of showings at 3,363. What happened during Thanksgiving week? Well, I'll tell you next week. But right now, it's still in progress, so we don't have any of that information. Post-Thanksgiving week, that'll be the following. And as usual, I do send out every Monday market updates. So if you guys aren't already getting that, go ahead and make sure you can head over to the link in the description. It will automatically get you the weekly market update. Right now, where we're at with the interest rates, we're at about 6.25 to 6.35. And when I'm mentioning all of these rate percentages and these numbers, we're looking at just across the board, we're just looking at a 30-year fixed rate loan. That's it. We're at 6.25, 6.35, right in that range. That kind of takes us into what is the forecast going to look like, because if we're going to see pending units for November, and that's the topic because that leads into the number of closings that we'll see between December and January. Let's just go ahead and get into what the forecast is going to look like for January 2026. Based on what a lot of the economists are projecting, whether that's with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, even Zillow's economists, Realtor.com, Fed, everybody across the board, and then of course their mother and their brother, and everybody's got their own opinion too. But what everybody is pretty much indicating is that we're going to start to see us getting much closer to about that 6% interest rate. This year is already starting stronger than any of the last 4 years. And if rates edge even closer towards 6%, early 2026 could get even busier. What does the Thanksgiving pattern really show us? One, Thanksgiving week always dips every single year. It just does. It's obvious when we know out of town and traveling, or people are coming to town to stay with friends, with family, and they're too busy making sure that no one's burning the turkey in the oven or in the fryer or on the smoker. They're not necessarily itching to get out and go look for property, which is very important, I will note, because it means people are spending quality time together. People travel, they cook, they host, they shop, they really just unplug and like to decompress and enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday. That's one. Two, the week after Thanksgiving, it always rebounds. And it has always shown us the week after Thanksgiving always does rebound. Post-Thanksgiving showings jump back immediately. So that's a positive thing. So if you're on the market right now, you're wondering what's happening, don't be alarmed. The third point, December and January closings prove how strong the market really is, because buyers who go under contract right after Thanksgiving or in that window of time of Thanksgiving, they're going to close between 30 and 60 days later. Now, the fourth point, interest rates change the intensity, not the pattern. I'll say it again. Interest rates change the intensity, but they do not change the pattern. When we have low rates, we have more showings. When we have high rates, we have fewer showings. But the shape of the graph is going to be virtually the same every single year. So what does this mean for buyers? Well, Thanksgiving is one of the lowest competition weeks of the entire year. Sellers are more negotiable. And the week after Thanksgiving, typically we end up seeing that there are more listings, but there's also going to be more activity, which the combination right there just leads to folks having a lot more options. Buyers like to have choices. December is secretly one of the best months to buy. Keep that in mind. What does all of that mean for sellers? Well, listing before Thanksgiving positions you perfectly for the post-holiday jump. A slowdown during Thanksgiving week is normal, not a sign that your home isn't selling. Maybe it's not selling. That might be a total different topic of discussion, but a slowdown during Thanksgiving week is totally normal. Don't be alarmed. Buyers who are active during the holidays are extremely motivated. December buyers write strong offers because they want to close in January. If you're thinking about buying or selling around Thanksgiving, let's talk. I'll walk you through the exact numbers for you, for your neighborhood, and even your neighbor's home down the street, and help you identify the time for you and for your family that makes the most sense. You can reach me at 843-896-6166. Thanksgiving's coming up, just a few days. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope you guys enjoy. Don't eat too much, or if you do, that's perfectly fine because we all